I'm going to talk today about the practice of energy medicine. The basic rule is that energy, the subtle energies, follow intention. So if one sets oneself with the intention to heal, the energies will look after themselves. Very, very important point is that if you imagine, if you conceive that you're using your personal energies, the personal energies to heal, you will exhaust yourself. So it is essential that you imagine that energy is flowing through you, and the energies passing through you, the energies that you're using are not your own, but are the universal energy just flowing. And it's my belief that with this mindset, working with energies is always invigorating rather than exhausting. I worked for a considerable time with a psychic healer, and JKW felt that it was very important after working with energies to ground by putting one's hands preferably in running water, but feeling that in water, just to take the energies off and to ground, to clear, to clean, to cleanse the energies. And really, with those few provisos, that your energies follow your intention. In all healing, I think it's very, very important to focus on, be aware of, that what one's trying to do is work with the patient's agenda, not with one's own agenda. It's tricky because one's always bringing one's own agenda, and one isn't necessarily discerning the patient's agenda, and almost anything one says is likely to be a projection. But always focus on one's working with the patient's agenda, and trusting that the energies will follow this and conform. When I was doing, when I was taking Upledge's advanced course in the craniosacral advanced course, and for 5 days was working continuously with energy, became very, very sensitive. And after the end, went with one of my colleagues. We went to a little nature preserve, and called it, just putting my hands on the trees, I could feel almost as though it was physical rather than subtle, whether energy was flowing out or flowing in, whether it was coming or going. By using energy, one becomes sensitive to energy. By using it, I was going to use the word intensely, but by using it for a long period of time, densely, one develops a sensitivity. That doesn't necessarily stay with one. When one's working in a more casual manner with energy, one's perception may become a little more ephemeral. One of the problems is that a lot of the work is subtle and not apparent. I know the first 6 months that I was working with craniosacral work, I was aware of how deeply relaxing it was for the clients, for the patients, and they were aware of how deeply relaxing. But I wasn't necessarily aware of the deep and subtle changes that were going on. So just not knowing what's happening, because it's subtle. A lot of it's subtle. A lot of it isn't apparent on the surface. So for those of us who aren't totally confident, for those of us who have insecurities and doubts, sometimes it isn't apparent how much work is going on. I suppose On the other side, there are the confident people who believe that they're accomplishing great works when subtle things are going on, or when they're imposing their own will, their own agenda on the situation. I think getting a feeling for a sense of passivity, allowing the patient's agenda to happen, is a key element. And patience for me would be a problem. Just letting things happen rather than being anxious to know that they're happening. And then again, there's this urge for things to happen. There's this urge to be helpful. So one can be working with one's with an intense intention, and one can be using one's own energy, which potentially is exhausting and diminishing. The patient brings their own agenda, and they bring their own style. There are, if you look at the little video we shot on facilitating spontaneous movement, Jessie, who was our mannequin, when you lay hands on her, and her being is so eager to work, she just flows with it. So just to invite spontaneous movement elicits spontaneous movement. And her style is to be very, very active. This is going to vary with the different people she works with. It's going to be specific to the situation. That's something I've observed in myself. I can be passive, I can be resistant, or I can be likewise just flowing with the facilitator. There are patients who are just going to lie there passively where one isn't going to see a great response, and that doesn't mean that the work isn't happening. Likewise, I recall one patient who, as soon as I would lay hands on her, would dance like a Indian goddess, really extravagant and beautiful movements. How deep the unwinding is, how deep the process is moot. It's a moot point. It's a gratifying experience, but how much change is occurring is going to vary from patient to patient, from situation to situation.